Hey everyone, welcome to Class 1A. My name is Dylan, and joining me live in the virtual studio, it is James Graham. What's up, James?
Hey man, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk some My Hero. We've been getting into like some meta level discussions, talking about Horikoshi, how the series is gonna end, but we got some real substance here today. Some real character talk.
Yeah, I mean, like with the season kind of being like we're in that like middle ground of like nothing, no like no new shows or like no. I mean, we had the OVAs, but those aren't really substance,
Yeah,
I
they're
guess.
a little bit fluffy. They're good but
They're
fluffy.
fluffy. Yeah, exactly. They're fluffy. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So yeah, no, it's nice to actually discuss some more like very in universe stuff and like so yeah, getting back to I think a bit of a like grassroots for us. I think like character dives have always been like a big thing for us. So.
Yeah, and with that, our character deep dive today is going to be an interesting one because the lens that we're going to take is we're going to turn this character into a top 10 hero. And of course, we are talking about the most wholesome character in all of My Hero, and it's Eri, who we got joined by during the overhaul arc where Deku and Mirio rescued her, and she's just been a fan favorite ever since.
Yeah, she like it really is like I mean, and she's very much one of those characters that's like doesn't overdo it on like the like I don't know like, I don't want to call it like the cutesy factor, but like she's not one of those characters that's like overly like childized. I guess like she's
Hmm.
a lot of the I guess a lot of the tones around her are usually pretty serious given her power, right? Like I mean, her quirk is like it's really touchy.
Yeah, and she, like you were saying, like she doesn't overstay her welcome either. This was
No.
like a huge problem in like old anime. Like Gundam is like a good example for this because they're so bad at it. Of where they have like the Gundam kids, where they introduce the kid characters, and they're like they're just normal kids actually. They're well written normal kids because they're annoying. They're constantly in the scene. They're like, all right,
Yeah.
please just move past this already. But I never feel that with Eri. Like she shows up, she does like her I'm Eri. I'm like a kid who hasn't been like socialized. Here's me doing like random cutesy things, and it's good.
That's it, and that's it, and then she's gone again, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like I mean, even the arc that was really centric to her, like you didn't really get sick of her at that point. You know what I mean? Like it was still they wrote her very well, and I think they delivered her like in the story very well too. So yeah, no, it's gonna
Yeah.
be fun to talk about such a like a no, I wouldn't say a niche character because she became incredibly popular very quick, but
Hmm.
like definitely more of like the B tier characters.
Yeah. So before we actually get into it, I just want to talk about what are our bounds in terms of spoilers for this one. I think that we can probably tackle this one only doing anime spoilers.
Yeah,
I think yeah. So if you're caught up on the anime but not the manga, no worries here. We're just gonna keep it to the anime, which I think for all the stuff that we're gonna dive into is perfectly fine. There's not a lot of extra context to bring in there. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about this because we're really going to focus in on what could make Eri a top 10 hero in the future. And we're going to be kind of talking a lot about her quirk and how that might be manifested in that version of her. So
yeah,
just to quickly recap what her quirk is all about. Her quirk is rewind, and essentially it's super basic. She can just rewind the state of things on any living object. So just turning the past on a singular object. So we've seen this used a couple times. So she has used this on Deku when he went his full cowling. He got super intense with his fighting, and essentially, if he burned up at that level, he would just like die. But it was like reversed. It gets
yeah.
it gets a little weird. So you gotta like squint your eyes a little bit and just like let it happen. But other than that, we've seen her reverse her dad. I think that was like part of her character backstory. She accidentally turned her dad back into like a fetus. And we have
No, she like it like disintegrated him. Like we're talking like chemical
oh
level.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
fully
yeah.
reversed.
Fully
And
reversed. Yeah.
and then we saw her quirk used in the bullets.
Yeah.
That who originally made them? I think it was Overhaul that originally made the bullets. But
Yeah.
essentially, it's a bullet that could undo somebody's quirk, and that's all it targets. So that's what we've seen her bounds at least are in her quirk. So let's break it. Let's
Yeah.
absolutely break this quirk
Let's
and
break
see
it.
what she could look like as a top 10 hero. And James, I just want to pass it to you. Tell me about the top 10 Eri and what that looks like.
See, like for me, it was a big like how do you make such a like almost like a fairly devastating quirk like not offensive, you know what I mean? Like I mean, obviously you can do it in like a medical state, but like that doesn't really manifest into a top 10 hero. That's very much like a support hero kind of thing, you know. like recovery girl kind of thing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
same kind of scope. But to put her in like in the offense, like I don't know, like she very much toes the line from like top 10 hero to like almost like anti-hero. Like if you let Ares trauma manifest and not be properly tackled, she quickly becomes somebody who just erases villains. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's insane, right? So I mean, I could like I want to put her in the top 10 category because like how don't you, right? Like I mean, it's so devastating, it's so nasty. But at the same time, like she's like I you almost have to use her as like a secret weapon kind of thing, who you like only bring out when it's really really bad, when somebody's absolutely out of control, and then you get her to like I mean I you're assuming she would have to be trained like very like hand to handy, like you need that sort of combat prowess because of all like unless you find a way to manifest her quirk and not like a I mean I don't know man, maybe you give her a Gatling gun and just let her bullets like just like but like it seems like the My Hero universe has a really big problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
So like I can't see any like it being her quirk being able to be weaponized. It would have to be something that she does like physically, right? Like by like touch or something like that. So she would have to become incredibly like hand to hand like effective and then yeah, but like how do you do that? How do you rewind somebody? I mean like unless she can start targeting like specific aspects of the person. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So either targeting the quirk or targeting their mental state or something like that. Then maybe you can have somebody who's not just absolutely just going to erase somebody, but maybe can like bring them back to like a more stable state of mind and hopefully like almost rewind their villain origins. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool. But I don't know how you take like I mean quirk training is always such like a weird thing because you never really know how it's gonna go, like, and how people like make things more effectively. Like, how does Erie make her rewind more, like, more targeted, right? Because like as of right now, it's like a blanket, like, oh, I'm just gonna rewind this person entirely, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you like? That's how I could see it manifested. Is like you almost have somebody who like can rewind somebody's like the I guess the villain origins, right? Like that's I
Yeah.
think right. But yeah, I don't know how you would get to that point, but that's what I think would be like a top 10 Erie.
So she
Or
would.
go ahead,
So
sorry.
she shows up and essentially like de-escalates the situation by like getting rid of like a lot of those feelings and kind of rewinding it. So it's like not in the heat of the moment anymore.
Yeah, yeah, I think that like I mean even like the initial like whatever's causing that initial conflict, but I mean I could almost see it as far as like literally like erasing trauma for people.
Mm-hmm.
Like just absolutely like or not like maybe wiping the memory entirely, but again that requires her quirk to become pretty like targeted. I guess if things go really sideways, she can just erase the person entirely, but then you're
Mm-hmm.
into a whole other can of worms. So
Yeah, then that's just killing someone.
yeah, that's just killing someone. Yeah, exactly, right?
I
But I think that's how I could see it in like her breaking into like that top 10 area because like how like if you can just like make the conflict go away entirely
mm-hmm.
and like like I mean you could have some really crazy quirks like basically not have that really like negative like like the person immediately becomes like you get another chance, right? You get another chance to not be a villain, whatever, right? Like you don't have things that go wrong in your life because you don't even remember them. They're just not there anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that the effect on your body or on your mind is just not there anymore, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know, you could like she could almost be like a conversion hero kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. And that's super interesting because mine was like basically very similar, like in terms of
oh really?
style.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, but the what I painted here for Eerie is that Eerie wanted to become a hero because she was rescued by Deku and Mirio and looked up to both of them because they are like outstanding heroes. They really grasp what it means to be a hero. And of course, she's gonna like aspire to be like them. The problem is her quirk is wild, absolutely buck wild, and so she hones in on it and she trains herself. And that is the important bit: is she looks a lot after Mirio and Deku, people who had nothing, and they really trained up their quirks. It took them a long time because Deku not having a quirk and then having one, and it just destroys his body. He had to hone it and like figure out how to actually use it, how to egg in the microwave, so to speak, kind of metaphor there that he learned from Gran Torino of like, how do you hold it back? Eri took a lot of inspiration from this. Mirio, same thing of like, it's maybe an unorthodox quirk, but how can you use it to help people and use it for good? And so she took both of those concepts and she made it into a usable quirk. Now, the problem with her quirk is that it's just too good. It's way too good. And so the way that she likes to deal with villains is she turns them into kids. For the same reason that you were talking about, of like a situation comes up and you just reverse them back to being a kid. Because like, what is the ultimate form of justice if not a chance at redemption? And the way to do that is, let's just redo this again. Put him back to a kid, set them on the right path, and maybe their future adult self will turn out better than the villain, right? Now, the problem with this, though, is that she can't be a real and true licensed hero.
Yeah,
Because
seriously, right?
everybody is going to want this quirk. You have a quirk that de-ages you. This would break society if they found out there was a quirk that could reverse aging. So Eri has to be like an undercover vigilante hero because she's not interested in like the ramifications of introducing de-aging into society. She just wants to help people and help rescue them. And so that's the way she does it. She goes through and she's a vigilante who's able to just turn people into these kids to have their redemption moment instead of living their life as a villain and either being completely killed or thrown into jail forever. Because that is kind of what she wants out of being a hero.
I love that we poised the episode as like Eri is a top 10 hero. We both were immediately like, she can't be one. Like she's too good. She's like, yeah, but I think it's a really cool concept because yeah, that is something that you can only bring out like in very like small isolated cases. You can't let that be like a public thing, right? Because yeah, like de-aging, like or like not even de-aging, but like that's like everybody's biggest fantasy is like, what if I could do it again? Like, what if I like like if I went back with the knowledge that I had? Because to my understanding with how she does things, like the memories are still intact. I guess like so like if you just do that blanket like bring somebody back, they go back with the knowledge of like, oh, if I do like this like these decisions are poor, yada yada yada, right? And then I mean yeah, you can see like I don't know like some like a whole rehabilitation sect kind of like crafted around her. Like that would be insane. Like that would be nuts.
Yeah, like the idea of her quirk is just like you really have to like and I think that's why Horikoshi right now is like doing the all or nothing thing of where it's like she can't control it and it's like full reversal is because like you can't open that box. The second that you open up the box of there is some control over this, a million questions come up, right? Of like, what can you reverse time on a dead person? Is that possible? Like, could you reverse time on a dead person to bring them back alive?
She becomes a necromancer.
Yeah, she becomes a necromancer and just starts like bringing back dead heroes. Like she goes off to like whatever like famous like hero graves like graveyard there is, and just starts popping the greats all back.
Okay. I do think it says I like in her hero profile that it has to be living, right?
That's
I think
true.
So okay, let me double check.
But what is living though? Because like if someone's dead, that their consciousness are dead, but like there's still things alive about them. Maybe if they're ancient, right? Probably not. But like if it's a recent thing, there's still stuff going on. Like
well, I mean, okay, yeah, like if you put her in as a, like a part almost like a super paramedic kind of thing. She just goes on scene if somebody's dying or like in the process of or they're like recently dead. Yeah, she freaking AEDs them back to life. Like
yeah, this is just like Recovery Girl, but like better in every single way
on steroids. Yeah, seriously, right?
Yeah, like, and because the only thing holding her back, right, is just like her inability to use her quirk, right? Of like that it's all or nothing at this point.
Yeah, like oh my god, and that's just it too. Like I think you put it perfectly. Like as soon as you start going into this, like yeah, once that box is open, like the possibilities are literally endless because it depends on like how she hones it, like what she uses it for, stuff like that. Like you could have like a super therapist. You could have one of the nastiest villains in the world if she just goes around erasing people. You know what I mean? Like it is like the options are kind of endless for her. But I think that's what makes her so cool and this quirk so interesting. Is that it can go in so many directions, and like I mean that's just credit to Horikoshi for like taking this thing. He's like, hey, guess what? She can like rewind stuff.
Yeah,
go wild, right? Like figure out what can happen with that, right? Like
Here's the other thing I want to talk about before we kind of wrap this up though. Like, what what does this imply about like preserved fossils though? Can she start like bringing back some ancient animals if there's like any living tissue,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, like it's written like it has to like living thing, right? So I mean, like you have to just like take it and be like,
What are
okay,
yeah, like what are the bounds of what a living thing is?
yeah, and like that's just it. Like I mean, if it doesn't like I mean, I think this comes into like a big factor with like any time any sort of resurrection like process like how do you resurrect a soul, right? Like or how do you like like bring a soul back? Like you
Hmm.
can't like some parts obviously are still living, but I mean with like not inanimate objects, but like things that are like like you said like animals or even like what or like
Plants, yeah,
trees, plants,
yeah.
yeah, stuff like that. Like yeah, you could like you could do a lot, right? Like you I mean like if things aren't totally wiped out from like a drought or something like that, like she could be an entire like relief effort on herself. She could just like walk around a place that's been like, you know, kind of ravaged by wildfire and just bring everything back. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Jesus, that like it just keeps going, dude. It doesn't stop.
So, do you think, okay, given now that we know the Pandora's box of Erie's quirk, is there any shot we actually see her in a significant way in, I guess, like going forward? Because like what I've been thinking about this is like if we see her in a significant way, it's also got to be all or nothing. In the fact of like she's got to just do one thing, right? Because like if they open the box, like anything can happen. So like if she were to make like a precise impact on anything, it would probably have to be like a one use thing, right? Of like, wow, like Erie, you're able to control this, but you had to give up your own quirk to figure this out or something like that, right? Because like you can't open the box.
I think that's what it comes down to is you can't open the box. You can't like it does have to be that like okay, this is like a one shot deal sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like we can't allow this to like keep going because yeah, like that's just it. I think too many question marks get added. What happens from there, sort of
Hmm.
thing. You know what I mean? Like it is, it's a lot, right? Like that quirk is so powerful, and I
Yeah,
wonder. I wonder. It makes me wonder if Horikoshi knew when he wrote this, like what would happen. I'm assuming he did because of like the state she's presented to us in, right?
yeah.
As the viewer, right?
Yeah, I mean, Horikoshi does a really good job of figuring out like what's the busted stuff and like not closing the plot hole, but like smudging it, right?
Yeah.
Of where there are things in the series that like could very easily be giant holes and like be completely broken, but he writes it in a way where it's vague enough or where it just like kind of smudges over it, where you can say like all the stuff we're saying about Erie of like these are things that could happen, right? These are possible huge like discrepancies, or not discrepancies, but like the implications are huge. But he like paints around it enough to where it's like, oh, but I guess it would make sense for it to not get wild, right? It's like, oh well, she doesn't have full use of it or whatever, and she's just a kid, and like it kind of like smudges um like the plot hole, like I was kind of saying.
Yeah, yeah. I think any of the questions that are being asked are immediately like they're immediately like kind of like stifled because it's like oh but well she doesn't have control of it or
Hmm.
she's a kid. You know what I mean? Like we you can't like he basically like the rabbit hole isn't like filled in, but the entrance is kind of closed off right now. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Like you could see the messed up stuff that's possible. But we can't
Yeah.
dive in yet.
You can't just get in there just yet, right? Which like I think that's just so it's such a smart way to do it, right?
Hmm.
Like it's so cool. Because I think as a fan base too, it lets everybody get like really creative and really invested about all these possible ideas, right?
Hmm.
But like you just can't explore it yet. But it's like it's in the back of all our heads. It's like, oh shit, like what happens when Erie grows up and like what like this quirk becomes a little more refined, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it becomes immediately becomes so cool to think about, right? Which I think he does with like not just her, but like a ton of things within the universe, right?
Hmm. But I think that's all I got for Erie. Do you any final thoughts about Erie, her impact on the story, or like any of these possible implications?
I want I want like Punisher Erie. I want Erie that I want Erie that has like something tragic happen with Mirio, and then she just goes full anti-hero and just starts blasting people. I think it would be sick.
She starts wandering the streets and eventually finds Knuckle Duster, They pair
Oh
up,
my god! Yeah.
become some really
Yeah.
hard vigilantes.
No, she reverses Knuckle Duster, gives him his quirk back, and then they're just this incredibly dynamic duo. Give me that. Give me that.
I love
Give me
it.
that. Yeah. I'm gonna commission Punisher Eerie. I'm gonna
Yes.
do it.
Yes. Anyone out there who writes fanfic, hit us up. We need some ideas for a story.
We got some good stuff. Good stuff.
All right, but with that, thank you all so much for watching or listening. If you're listening to this, you can find us also on youtube.com/class1a, where we post a ton of stuff. We're posting stuff about the current manga. The new season's coming out pretty soon. So we're going to have like a really awesome run up to that. We're going to recap the last season, talk about what we're hyped for going into this season. And of course, we're going to be doing every single episode as a recap and breakdown. So get excited for that. But with that said, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you all next class.